Recording.
Red is for recording.
Recording.
Welcome, guys. This is episode 7 of This Is You.
Woo, woo.
In this episode, we are going to get to some really awesome stuff. The first of which is an interview with a local Los Angeles forager, Pascal Baudar. And hey, look, that's his book right in front of us.
It's gorgeous.
He's actually written 3 different books. The book we have is The New Wildcrafted Cuisine, and it's amazing. We've just got it, and we've just got into it, and we have him coming up shortly in an interview. Also, on this episode, we have Carol has this new segment called The Color Purple.
Yep, I'm going to talk to you about why I love purple so much.
We have another new segment called Sip of Coffee, which I'm going to do, and I'm super excited because I'm full of caffeine. And one of the fan favorites today,
Worth the spend.
I want to give a little bit of backstory on this episode, how we've come to have our very special guest today, Pascal. When I grew up in Markham, just outside of Toronto, we lived right beside a river, like it was a small creek going through, and there was a little valley, and we used to go down there and play. And it was really amazing because there was all this wild food growing there. And as kids, I mean, we took advantage of it, and it was just sort of there. We had 4 different apple trees going right beside our house, and then there was these bushes with these red berries on them, and all the neighbors were like, "Oh, don't eat those berries, they're poisonous." And I always thought in my head, it's kind of weird because the birds would just chow on them, and how could birds eat them and then we not eat them? But the wise neighbors were like, "Oh, they have special stomachs and they can eat it, and just you kids don't eat it." I found the bushes to be red currants. So we started just gorging on those red currants, and they were so good.
What do they taste like? I've never had a red currant. What does it taste
They
like?
taste a lot like black currants, only red.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly like that. And then a little farther down in the ravine, there was a patch of wild rhubarb, and I used to go down there with a cup of brown sugar, like just straight up 1 cup of brown sugar, go down there, bust off some rhubarb, stick it in the sugar, and my mouth would just be crazy with sugar and sourness. That was before Sour Patch Kids. We also had raspberries and tiny strawberries. There was a chestnut tree in the neighborhood. And up at our cottage, we had Blueberry Hill, and there was wild blueberries up there, and you would just go and pick them. They were small, so we were small kids, so it didn't take that much to fill us up.
That
But
sounds
it was
amazing.
Yeah, it was really awesome. And then just north of us at this place called Bruce's Mill, we had maple syrup in the winter. And I went there a couple years ago with my family, and it was awesome because they distill all the syrup from the trees. They tap out the trees and then distill it down to bottles, which you can purchase. And then we went up and ordered pancakes with fresh maple syrup, and it was so good. You got lots of vitamins and minerals out of that.
Yum.
And there was also tons of cattails around, which is also edible. Now, Carol and I went, actually with Dara too, a couple of years ago, we went to a restaurant in Beverly Hills.
And Elena.
And Elena went too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was called Red Medicine. And the chef at the time, his name is Jordan Kahn. And he's known for very unusual foods, really gorgeous, very beautifully plated. And it was a lot of foraged products. So Scott, what did it taste like?
It was crazy. I felt kind of like it ruined me for the rest of my life because every flavor after that seems kind of like a 75% because the flavors were so amazing. They were so vivid. The way I thought of it was just color was super vivid. It was like someone took the saturation in Photoshop and just moved it up to 100. That really started getting the ball rolling for me, and I started to explore. And we also watched an episode on Chef's Table from the chef from Noma.
Right. Rene Redzepi, who does a lot of foraging in Copenhagen, where he lives.
Yeah, and that also just brought an element of this foraging into our view. And at the time, we were doing the Dara the Bow Girl show, and I had thought, I actually did some research in Los Angeles about foraging, and we came up with Pascal, and years later, we've always kind of had it in the back of our minds that we'd love to connect with him somehow, and today is our lucky day.
Yeah, exactly. I remember you would just keep talking about that. And over the last 4 years, you've probably mentioned him maybe 8 times. So I'm really excited that we're going to be able to speak with him today.
Pascal Baudar is a writer, naturalist, and a self-styled culinary alchemist based here in Los Angeles. His passion is to study wild edibles and research new culinary uses through ancient and traditional methods of food preservation, as well as contemporary cooking techniques.
In 2014, he was named one of the 25 most influential tastemakers in LA by Los Angeles Magazine, and in 2017 as offering one of the most innovative culinary classes. He has served as a wild food consultant for several TV shows, including MasterChef and Top Chef Duels. He has been featured in numerous TV shows and publications, including Time Magazine, the Los Angeles Times, LA Weekly, and the New York Times.
Pascal has written 3 books: The New Wildcrafted Cuisine, which we have here in front of us. We just got it the other day and are totally loving it. The Wildcrafting Brewer and Wildcrafted Fermentation. The first 2 books became Amazon bestsellers in several categories.
On his inspiring website, www.urbanoutdoorskills.com, you will find a buffet of classes and workshops.
Welcome to the podcast, Pascal.
Oui.
Great to have you here. We are so excited. We are in your one of your rooms here, and just to give people a sense of where we are, we're sitting in front of a cornucopia of plants and fermentation. It's amazing.
Maybe Pascal can kind of explain what's behind us.
So behind me, I have a lot of, dehydrated plant.
Right.
Grains and stuff
Dehydrated
like that.
plants,
So
yeah.
dehydrated plants, grains and seeds. Right over there, I probably have 24 different vinegars going on.
Wow.
At the bottom of my feet behind me, there's a bunch of beers brewing. And I also have a lot of lacto-fermentation. So this is a dry material. Over there too is a dry plant. This is different plates.
Wow.
And then the fridge over there is full of lacto-fermented wild food.
Wow.
It's fun.
It just keeps going.
It just keeps going.
And this stuff grows too.
In the old place that I had, I used to have 6 shelves. But this place is smaller, so I only have 3 shelves.
But packed full.
Really packed full.
We can see here. I just wanted to ask, I know you have spoken about the difference between being a forager and what you call yourself, which is a culinary explorer and wildcrafter. Can you explain the difference to our listeners?
Okay, so a forager is basically somebody, my definition is somebody who basically go into the wild and pick up wild plant food. I call myself a wildcrafter because wildcrafter has this little implication that you're actually taking care of the environment.
Okay.
So it's not just taking, it's actually looking at the environment as being part of it.
As a whole.
So sustainability is a big point.
Right.
And I call myself a culinary alchemist because I'm really going deep into trying to figure out what you can do with those food.
Right.
Like different uses and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, great. This is not so much a question, but an observation and a compliment. I noticed you use the word explore a lot in your materials, and I absolutely love that, and that's what I connect with, because to me, it means that you have a curious mind, and I think ultimately that's what has drawn me in and made me such a huge fan. There's not really an answer for that. It's just I wanted to get a compliment in there at some point.
So, I wanted to tell you about my daughter. My daughter is an artist, and she lives out in Joshua Tree. So she runs high desert test sites. And Sarah Witt, who is a chef out in Joshua Tree, back in 2016, she ran a program for 6 months called High Desert Test Kitchen.
Nice.
So what they did is they had a group of about 20 people. They would get together once a month, and they would use specific desert plants in all of their dishes, and it would be a potluck.
Okay.
So they would talk about how to cook these unusual ingredients. And my daughter Elena told me that they often would have discussions about access and that the way that the plants are sourced and about common foraging areas being over-foraged. So what are some of the foraging rules that should be followed?
Foraging rules. It's interesting. It's kind of a long story for me. In the beginning, when I was foraging, I was really interested into all the food. It didn't really matter. But over time, when I started, I was pretty much a forager. But over time, having such a connection with nature, I started to really look at this issue of sustainability and how I can interact with nature. So I was looking at sustainability. And in the last 3 years, it became even more intense because I've become really pissed off at the amount of herbicides and chemicals that
Yeah.
are being sprayed, mostly to kill a lot of the invasive plant and non-native plant.
Yeah.
Urban expansion has pushed me probably 5 miles further
Right.
than it used to be, and also the amount of trash that is showing up. So in 15 years, I lost 5 miles. And I started to look at it. I'm going like, this is interesting, because also the plant that are being sprayed with herbicide, and it's happening every day, and I see it. I see it. I even photograph them, and I even photograph the effect on native plant too. But they're really spraying all those plants that are invasive and non-native, and in the same time, this is 90% of what a forager will actually pick up. 90% of the food that somebody who calls himself a forager will be in Los Angeles, non-native and invasive. You come here in May, you look at the hills, they are completely yellow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Seen that.
it's all mustard.
Yeah.
So we have 10 different kinds of mustard. We are not going to do anything with it. Those are crops in different countries. Mediterranean mustard. Black mustard is a crop in North Africa, used to be a crop in France. I'm looking at all those plants, and the more I do research, the more I find that it used to be a crop.
Yeah.
It used to be hunter-gatherer food, for example. This is true of a lot of grains. But here in Los Angeles, and I kind of see that also in America, we are going to take a look at it and go like, oh, it's bad, and we are going to spray it with chemicals and pesticides.
Yeah.
And then, or we do habitat restoration. That means we are going to go over there and we're going to take all those resources and throw them away. The biggest, this is what I've learned after 15 years, is that the biggest food waste in Los Angeles is probably non-native wild food. We are not using it. You have hundreds of thousands of acres of edible plant that we choose on purpose to not use because they are quote-unquote weeds.
Right.
But they are not weeds in different countries. They are crops.
Because people don't know about the ability to use those as food, and you have so many homeless people and people without meals that you could sustain some people.
More than that. I mean, there is so much food that is around. It's not funny, but again, so far, there are no positive solution. It's always a negative solution. It's always spraying pesticides, herbicides, and throwing away the resource. And I'm coming there and I'm going like, you know what? Why don't we look at food as part of those solutions?
Right.
I understand that not all the plants are edible, but even those plants could be used to make biofuel, could be used to make pepper, could be used to do all kind of different stuff. But I'm going to stick to what I do.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm going to go like all over the place.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking at this food thing and the wild food in relation to the environment. So I'm basically going like, you know what? Fudge sustainability. I want my activity to be beneficial.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my viewpoint. Like, how can I take wildcrafting in a way that's actually helping the environment? It's not even sustainable.
You're taking the next step.
You need to take the next step right now, mostly with the issue of like climate change and pollution and all this stuff. You cannot just think sustainability.
Right.
You have to think like, no, how can my action be actually beneficial to the environment?
Right.
So is this a one-man fight, or
It's totally a woman fight.
or are there many people, wildcrafters and foragers across the country that are interested in this?
There are people who are interested in the concept. I don't know if many people think that way. I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just in general conversation with foodie people, doesn't really come up that much.
Oh no, with foodie that's not going to come up.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you go to a regular restaurant, if you think about it, all 99% of the agriculture is actually non-native food that is being grown where you used to have native plant.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to the store, I don't know if there is any native food.
I know.
Like native plant food.
Yeah.
It's all non-native.
Yeah.
All produced in a factory.
But then again,
processed.
How come those are not weeds?
Yeah, right.
You see, I mean, there's so many questions because you can be like, well, those are okay because now it's part of agriculture. If the mustard was, planted.
Yeah.
And I understand there is the fact that some plants also take over the environment.
Right.
That's a bit of a different issue. But I'm interested by the plants that take over the environment because
Right.
that I can do something about it, and I can go over there and and that's what I'm doing a lot of research right now is taking those plants that nobody wants. And a lot of my job is actually to go back and figuring out again what has been forgotten.
Right.
Finding those old recipe on
Yeah.
how to make beer and how to make wine with plants that, people don't use anymore.
Right.
But they used to be used, 2,000, 1,000, 6,000
Yeah.
years ago.
Right.
That's what I like about what you do. It's really exciting.
It's
It's
fun.
future forward.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Looking backwards, but moving forwards.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'll give you an example. You have one of the most hated grass locally.
Yeah.
Is this thing that people call foxtail.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, we know that.
The
Yeah,
one
yeah.
that sticks in your shoes and
Yeah.
all this stuff.
Right.
Right. So when we had the drought, I'm going like, this was very challenging for me. And I'm going like, okay, I'm going to start researching, more deeper what I can find. And I started looking at grains.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, every time I will go in nature and find a grain that was big,
Yeah.
and I will study it, every time it was a hunter-gatherer food, mostly from Europe.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
So
Mm-hmm.
the foxtail, which is cheatgrass, used to be grain that was collected 6,000 years ago. They actually found some in caches. Cave in
Oh, wow.
France
Oh,
and
wow.
Britain. It's a beautiful grain. When
Yeah.
you cook it, it looks like red rice.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
beautiful.
I know.
Wow.
But
Oh, that's
it,
so interesting.
but it took me a while. So all these things that people hate, going like foxtail, well, it's actually food.
Yeah. And good.
I need to have you come to our next door neighbor. Their whole yard is lined with foxtails.
Yeah.
You can come and help us
Well, foxtail is
make a meal out of that.
There is a bunch of plant called foxtail. But
okay.
the one I'm talking about is actually worse. That's the one that's called cheatgrass.
Okay.
It's, and then the other foxtail is the wild barley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's barley.
Right.
It's just a wild version of the barley.
That
Right.
would be good.
Yeah. Pascal has a website. It's www.urbanoutdoorskills.com. And he's got a lot of fantastic classes and workshops on there. And a question that I had was, what kind of a person finds themselves at one of your classes or purchasing your book? Like, what type of person is it?
Okay, so I do have foodies that are coming to my class.
Yeah.
And when I say foodies, those are people who are into food and they know, word of mouth, they actually know that if they come to my class, they are going to taste unusual food.
Right.
So the way I do it is we usually do a walk, and then at the end of the class, we have like this big table that we all put together.
Yeah.
I mean, I prepare all of the food.
I've seen pictures of that, and it's amazing.
It's like tapas style.
Yeah.
Simple tapas style.
Yeah.
And then the other people who come in are mostly people who love nature and hikers. I have a lot of people who hike.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, those people live in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Living in the city is quite complex.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to use your phone and you can order Uber and you have to read all
Yeah.
the signs, and it's quite complex living in
Yeah.
a city. But they go back in nature to walk, and then soon I realize they don't know anything.
Right.
Right.
They walk and they see
That's right.
green, and
They
that's
see
all
green.
they see.
Yeah.
And this is really backward. If you go back like 4 or 5 generations, people will have known most of the plants that were growing in the hills.
Even the kids knew it.
Yeah, even the kids knew
Yeah.
it. I mean, my grandma, this is how I started with wild food. My grandma used to, started teaching me when I was a kid.
Wow.
So the older generation knew all this stuff,
Yeah.
but young people, they don't know anymore.
Right.
So and that's why
You know what I'm thinking?
Yeah.
I'm thinking that you make a video game called The Forager. It'll be a big hit. It'll make you successful, and the kids will worship you.
it's a lot of 3D to do for all of them.
Yeah.
Well, so you said your grandma, she introduced you to this.
Yeah.
So was there any kind of food when you were a child that were you a picky eater, or a food that you didn't like to eat?
No, it was very interesting. So I grew up in a small town in Belgium, maybe 1,000 people type of
Okay.
thing. Very boring.
Right.
My neighbor was a cow. I would go see the cow every morning, like, how are you doing?
Yeah. Conversations were kind of one-sided.
But without knowing it, we were actually super sustainable.
Yeah.
We had a big garden. We were raising rabbits. We were raising chicken. And my grandma used to send me all the time going like, go get some dandelion, hazelnut, walnuts.
Wow.
All this stuff. Because it was normal.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the relationship that people had with nature was very different. Like going to nature to pick up stuff from my grandma was as normal as going to the store.
Right.
Type of thing. There was
Right.
no,
And
you know.
and the good thing about that was Your store was always open, never
That's
closed.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
And there was always something,
Yeah.
and it was
It always
actually-
came new and fresh.
Totally. I don't recall as a kid ever going to the supermarket.
Oh, wow.
So
That's fantastic.
We must have been pretty, I didn't
Self-sustaining.
I didn't think about it at the time, but we must have been self-sustaining quite well.
So how often do you go to the grocery store now?
Or I still, my food is really a mix if you think about it.
Yeah.
Probably like every 2 days or something.
Oh,
like
so
that.
you
Yeah.
do go
Yeah.
shopping.
Oh no, I'm not an extremist. Actually, I could do it. I could live on wild food. It's true.
Yeah.
But a lot of the photo that you see that I put online on social media
Yeah.
is actually the food I do for my class on
Oh,
Sunday.
yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they get it and I don't.
Oh, I see.
Right.
So my food is actually like regular. I eat organic, and I
Right.
would say wild food maybe like 20% of my diet.
So you told me that you prepare these meals through
Yeah.
the week. So what is your schedule during the week?
I have a list. Like today, I was experimenting with a new dish. I was doing some soda, whole soda. I picked it up this morning, and I just made it before you guys arrive.
Wow.
So right now, I'm just looking at the schedule. I'm going like, okay, I got 6 days now, and if I do a soda, it's going to take me that much to have the soda ready. Tomorrow, I'm going to go foraging for black mustard. I'm going to try playing on simple recipe because I really want people to use those.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this one actually maybe a little bit more complex. I want to do a curry.
Mm.
Oh.
So I'm starting to take a look at like really simple recipe. I'm not too extreme on some of those food. I mean, I can be very extreme,
Hmm.
but I want people to look at it and go, I can do that.
Right.
Because I
Right.
want people to use them.
Right.
I will still do recipe that are more, I would call that intense, in the sense that I'm not, when I look at wild food, I'm not trying to use something that already exists, like a curry, for example.
Hmm.
If I look at nettle, I'm not that interested to make a pesto. Everybody goes like, oh, let's
Yeah.
make a pesto.
Hmm.
And I'm really looking at the plant, and I'm pretty much in my head going like, asking the plant, like, what do you want to be?
When you grow up.
What you
Yeah.
want to be when you grow up, or what you want to be before you go to my stomach. Type thing.
Yeah.
But this is why I also use a lot of the lacto fermentation and the different method of food preservation and yeast and all this stuff is really starting to play with the plant and see what's happening and what direction it can take me. And sometimes one plant, I will play with it for 2 years.
Wow.
Wow.
And then out of the 2 years, I may have 7 or 8 different recipes that I like.
Oh,
It's amazing.
And maybe 20 that were really gross.
Yeah.
So do you have any culinary background? How did you learn to cook? And how did you learn to experiment like this?
Okay, so I no culinary experience whatsoever. However, my dad and my mom were incredible cook. I mean, like incredible, like country cooking, all this stuff.
So you had a good palate to begin with.
I think
Yeah.
I got a really good palate, and I got to experience a lot of very interesting food. From snails to smoked salmon. And, I mean, like, and my dad used to make a lot of pate, and so really country.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like when I started to deal with wild food, it was in 1999, I became interested again with wild food. And I did some classes. I probably did 400 classes with different people.
Wow.
Survivalists.
It's a lot of knowledge.
It's a lot of knowledge. I did that for 2 or 3 years, every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, sometime during the week. Anybody will teach me. Native people, survivalists, botanists. I will even go to a store, stay close to the olives, and when somebody was picking up olive, going like, please take me home, show me how to, make those olives. And I became fascinated too with food preservation techniques. So it was a long road. I mean, from 1999, so it's already like 21 years ago. And I just started to play with it and play with it and play with it. Then I did the Master Food Preserver at the University of California.
Okay.
So I can teach like all the modern method of food preservation.
Right.
But I really became fascinated with the traditional method of food preservation. And it's probably like 30 of them
Oh,
that
okay.
people kind of forgot.
Yeah.
So, and the reason I went into it is because frankly, nobody else was doing it. So I could have all those flavors and I started also dealing with chefs locally and playing with, bringing them food, but nobody was really doing it. So I basically just say, you know what, you eat. type of
You're
thing.
it.
But in the same time, my cuisine became what I'm doing. So it's very much food preservation based.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
for example, you saw the table last week. I would say 80% of the ingredients are food preservation based,
Oh.
like salted olive,
Yeah.
cured olive,
Yeah.
fermented mustard.
Yeah, because if you're making this stuff and you've got to eat it,
That's
it's
right.
got to stay around for a period of time, or you're just wasting your time.
Yeah, so I basically took all the food preservation I was doing
Mm-hmm.
and then created a cuisine out of freshly foraged and food preservation and kind of had fun.
Nice.
And
Right.
somehow I created kind of like my little niche or my little thing that only me do it.
Yeah.
Because I do.
Do you have
what
a
I
name
do.
for it?
No.
The Pascal type of.
Pascal's food stuff. I don't
Pascal
know.
method.
Pascal method. I don't know.
And you can start doing exercises with it too and combine everything.
Totally.
Whole body, mind, spirit. So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You have an exotic accent. You've said you're from Belgium.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask you a question that will prove to me once and for all that you are truly from Belgium.
Oh.
This is the question.
Oh.
Which actor is known as the muscles from Brussels?
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Of course.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay, and on to a more of a serious question. Who were the 3 people in your life that influenced you the most?
Wow. Well, my mom and my dad, definitely. Christopher Nargis is the first guy that I did the first class with in 1999. And I remember going to his class, and within 15 minutes, I had my epiphany and said, I want to do that with my life.
Wow.
Wow,
Was
that
that
quickly.
locally
That
here?
really, yeah. It was just, he teach locally, he teach more like survival skill.
Okay.
But once he started teaching the wild food, I like an epiphany right there. And then I said, this is what I want
This
to
is
do
you.
with my life. This is me.
Was it
Right.
just sort of like an alignment in going
It's
this?
an alignment of
Yeah.
goal. I
Yeah.
really wanted to do that when I was a kid. And guess what? When my dad passed away 3 years ago, I found this old drawing of me.
Yeah.
And it was called My Life.
Yeah.
And it was explaining that I was living in nature and eating the plant and hunting.
Ooh, I'm getting
Oh.
shivers.
And this is all
He
I want.
knew.
Yes, yes. And I think
That's
a lot
amazing.
of kids actually know exactly what they want to do
Right.
when they are a kid, and then gets lost because of all kind of different
Yeah.
reasons.
Right.
But I think he was really aligned, and it was like a big epiphany. 2 people who came to my class had the same epiphany in
Right.
the last 7 years, and 2 of them are teaching now.
Wow.
So
And
it changed
the-
completely their life too.
But
Right.
there's also an element of being a part of that. You were a part of their sort of life-changing experience, which must have been pretty magical.
Yeah, and I think it will happen to like a lot of artistic endeavors.
Yeah.
You know, some people go see a concert and say, I want to be a musician.
Yeah.
Thing,
Get
or
inspired.
Yeah.
Get inspired, you know. And
Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to be Britney Spears for years.
yeah, totally, I can see that.
you can see it now,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
You know, but I view what I do most. I mean, I'm really an artist. I have a background in fine art, and I view what I'm doing really as an art form.
Right.
That's kind of like the way I look at those plants are part of art. Nature is art. And when you create dishes or simple dishes, it's still art.
And
Right.
sorry, I just wanted to jump in there too. And I do photography, and the images on in Pascal's books are amazing. They're beautiful. They're congruent with the whole vibe of what he's doing. His Instagram is amazing. So I really sort of tip my hat to you, because I think the photos you've captured exactly what you're doing.
That's because I have a big studio. You saw my photo studio.
Your huge photo studio.
and all the lighting.
Yeah,
outside.
he has thousands of dollars worth of high-end lighting. You guys could never replicate that. I'm so jealous of his photo studio.
Depending on the
Yeah.
time of the year. Like
Yeah.
during the summer, I can start doing it between 9 and 3.
Yeah,
And after that, the sun becomes too strong.
yeah.
So I have to time myself. Like today, I did 2 dishes and... two dishes,
Yeah.
and I was done just before you guys arrived.
So, what is one common myth about foraging that you'd like to debunk?
And that it's dangerous.
Why do people say it's dangerous?
Well, because they don't know. People always like, you know, one of the common questions I get is, did you ever poison yourself? Did you ever got sick? Like, no. Why? Why would I get sick? You know, if you know something, you're not going to make a mistake. I
Yeah.
mean, you go to the store, you look at the tomato, you go like, oh, it's a tomato.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't all of a sudden eat a hand grenade.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, yeah. It's even with mushroom. I mean, the people I know that do mushroom. I'm mostly a plant guy. I do
Yeah.
only a few mushroom, but even the mushroom people, they're very careful.
Yeah.
The people who are doing mistake are
Don't know what they're doing,
Well,
right?
yeah.
I did read in your book that you do have a little bit of a disclaimer in there, which was great, where you say don't ingest anything unless you're 100%, not 40, not 60, not 80,
no.
but 100% sure.
Yeah, and sometimes, like when I was studying mushrooms, sometimes it took me 3 years before I dare to eat that
Yeah.
mushroom.
Yeah.
And I will not do it until I get 3 people that I completely trust,
Yeah.
that
That-
are really
confirm.
expert, that I really know, and I'm there in front of them with the mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would be okay to eat it. So I'm super safe.
Yeah.
I'm super careful. But I did get sick 3 times in the last 2 years from food I bought at the store.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
This is more dangerous. I'm actually
Yeah.
more scared.
You're more scared of shopping at the
I mean,
market.
actually, like 2 weeks ago, I got some kind of E. coli or whatever. I went to downtown Los Angeles and there was a food truck and I got some food and
Oh,
I got
no.
so sick for 2 or 3
gosh.
days.
Wow.
All right, we won't name any names.
No, I don't name names, but I'm actually
Wow.
scared to go to a store and buy food too.
That's true.
What's something people seem to misunderstand about you?
I have no idea. You will have to ask them.
Okay.
My
that's a-
accent?
your accent?
Yeah.
Oh.
They misunderstand
Yeah.
me. They're like, oh.
No, but is there something about you that people misunderstand? They don't get who you are.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're very secure in who you are. So I
Yeah,
don't
pretty
think he
much.
doesn't have to think about what other people
Yeah.
think of him or
Yeah.
I mean, I really base what I do on my own passion, but also ethics and morals. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, you always have like extremist environmentalists who probably don't like me much,
Mm-hmm.
but because they think they're, some people have the conception that we should not touch nature anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few in Los Angeles, like foraging is super bad, and they always give you the example like, oh, look at what's happening with ramps, look at what's happening with fiddleheads and
Yeah.
look what's happening with white sage.
Mhm.
And they think this is foraging, but it's not foraging. The people who actually go pick up those plants, they don't know anything else but those plants. They just want to pick it up to make a profit.
So they're taking all of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no ethics there. They just
Yeah.
want to take everything.
Right.
And on top of it, no, I'm really going for the invasive and non-native, so
Yeah.
I'm sleeping well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Right.
What kind of changes have you noticed once you started consuming foraged meals, like physical changes that happened to you?
I lost weight.
Mm-hmm.
I got most of my change were not physical. They were actually more, I would say, spiritual.
Nice.
Having that connection back to nature really made me more calm.
Centered, calm.
More center, more in harmony with the world around me.
Yeah. Greater awareness of.
You get all this stuff. This is interesting. It's like, it's in your DNA.
Yeah.
And by going back foraging or wildcrafting, you get back this connection with nature that a lot of people are longing for. They don't even know sometimes they're longing for it.
So it kind of woke you up
Yep.
to something that was already inside you and that you had when you were a young boy with your grandmother.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I mean, I was really away from it. I mean, I told you when we were talking earlier, I was doing virtual reality.
Yeah.
I mean, how far can it be?
Yeah. 180.
180. And I was doing okay, but really for me, there is something spiritual about nature.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I find it, I don't know if the word is ironic, but it's interesting that you live in a major metropolis.
But I'm outside. I mean,
Right.
you go, if you drive over there, you're going to see people on horses. And
Right.
It doesn't look like Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Right.
But on the good side too, this is interesting because here am I living in Los Angeles
Right.
and I teach wildcrafting.
Yeah.
It's so, yeah.
So a lot of people are looking at that and go like, wow. So
You can do it here.
You can do it here.
Right.
If you can do it here, you can do it anywhere. But in the same time, you get those issues that I'm looking at. I'm going like, this is big city. People are not connected to the land. And you have all this food waste going on. And you have all the herbicide. It's not going to continue that way. I mean, we're losing so much ground.
Right.
Due to pollution and herbicides and pesticides and all this good stuff. It's not going to last forever, I can tell you that, because I've seen it just in 15 years.
Well, let me ask you, because you are outside of the main downtown Los Angeles,
Right.
but you still live in the valley, which is an area that probably keeps some of the pollution in. So are the items that you, I guess what I'm saying is, do you think that the items that you forage are affected by the pollution?
Because I think we were speaking a little bit earlier about pesticides getting into like the water table, and you said how you got pushed 5 miles, I think.
Yeah,
so
much.
it is definitely happening.
Yeah. But also, I do a lot. Most of my foraging is actually done on private property.
Okay.
And they are away, like I have 2 friends with private property in the Angeles forest.
Yeah.
So I'm away from civilization. It's like 20
Okay.
minutes. 20
Oh,
minutes.
okay, yeah.
Okay.
And I also do my foraging. There is a girl in the mountains, Gloria Putman. Maybe you know her. And she has a goat farm, and she's got pinyon pines and white fir. And
Wow.
this is where I get my stuff.
Yeah.
So I play by the rule, because you're not supposed to pick up plant. The rules are against foraging, by the way.
Like in the Santa Monica mountains.
You're not supposed to pick up plant in the Angeles forest. That's kind of the rule. In Ojai, they allow you to pick up. What I heard from my friend, that they allow him to pick up for his own personal use.
Right.
On BLM land, you can pick up stuff for your own personal use. So I follow the rule, but this is where I break the rule. If I am going to the forest and I see a black mustard or a mustard or oxalis, some of those very invasive plants, and you know what? I'm going to remove it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
Why not? This is more in harmony with the land. More in harmony with the land by doing so than leaving it there, for God's sake.
Right.
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 You have to think with it.
Yeah.
Right.
But play by the rule.
Yeah. And like you said, you're one person doing that. It's not like you're doing it commercially with a big combine running through the mountains.
Totally. And to be honest, like again, in 15 years of foraging, I don't recall. Twice. I've seen two groups foraging in 15 years. Nobody's doing it.
Wow.
And the people who were doing it it was a group of old Armenian people, like 80 years old. Yeah. And they were foraging for curly duck, which is a plant coming from that you find over there.
Yeah.
Invasive. And then I've seen 2 Korean grandma once picking up acorns.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
That's it. Like,
Right.
it's not an issue. There is
Right.
no 99.99999% of the population in Los Angeles doesn't want to do anything with raw food. They want to go to the market and have their job and buy their food, really.
Right.
Get it delivered by a drone.
Yeah, totally. Like,
And the-
yes,
and the
I don't have to
point-
walk. The drone will come to me.
Yeah. I don't have to breathe fresh air in.
And the 0.0001 are foraging with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of pollution, to go back to this, I remember, like, for my new book about fermentation, I was fermenting in seawater. So I literally
I'm
took
sorry, what kind of water?
Fermenting is seawater.
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 Okay.
Seawater
okay.
is a brand, if you think about it. So I went but I didn't pick it up in Los Angeles. I went all the way to above San Francisco. I will not touch seawater below San Francisco.
Oh,
Right.
because the currents switched
Because of the
down.
pollution.
Right, the
and the-
pollution, all
yeah.
this
Yeah.
stuff. But I went over there and it was like pristine seawater. And but immediately people were like, what about radiation? What about plastic? And what about this? And what about that?
Yeah.
It was like such a controversial. I'm like, people, it's seawater.
Yeah. It's a little salty.
It's a
and
little salty. It's not like, you eat fish, you eat seaweeds,
Yeah.
Right.
you eat all
Where do you
this
think
stuff.
that's coming from?
Well, yeah, exactly. So it's the same thing. Sometimes people are like, oh, you live in LA, it's polluted. We live on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Right.
You do the best you can.
Right.
Right.
I'm trying to collect plant in the best place that I know.
Right.
And there is a point where I have to stop worrying.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm never going to eat anything.
That's true.
I mean, what you buy at the store is more polluted than whatever I will find in the forest. I can
Yeah.
tell you that.
And at least you know where it's coming from.
I know
Yeah.
where it's coming from. I don't have the Roundup on it, or I don't have the pesticides or herbicides on it,
Yeah.
which you will get in the market.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know already.
Or
I'm
GMO.
Or GMO. So
Yeah.
I'm getting better food that way anyway.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be an extremist.
Yeah.
So, Pascal, what do you think are the greatest gifts that you've received from your foraging efforts?
Greatest gift, peace of mind, stability, balance. Those are all spiritual gifts for me.
Right.
And those are.
Are you a religious person in
Not
any way? Were
really.
you raised that way?
Not really. It became natural. I would not even say religious. I'm spiritual, but I'm
Right.
not looking for it.
Right.
It was a byproduct.
It's a byproduct. It's reconnecting with your own DNA, reconnecting with
Nature.
nature. There's something inside us. Look at any I would say like tribes or ancestral people living in the forest, they're always super spiritual.
Yeah.
Spiritual is a big deal, you know?
Right.
And I think it's something that does happen by having that connection with nature. You understand that you are not disconnected, you're just a part of it.
Right.
Right.
And
And you're not trying to control it and overrun
that's
it.
correct. You this tiny
Yeah.
thing that is just part of it, and you're part of the chain and the whole connection, and you start losing your ego, you start losing all those
Yeah.
thoughts about how great you are, because really you're just part of everything.
There's a humbleness to it.
It makes you super humble.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it does, you know. And
Yeah.
and sometimes like I get a lot of followers and all that, and sometimes makes me a bit uncomfortable because it's a different world. Like if somebody comes to me like, "Can I do a photo with you?" I'm like, "I'm okay on it," but I'm like, such a weird thing for me
Yeah.
because I'm like really a normal guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Type of thing. So I have a bit of a hard time getting admiration because
I think because so many people are surrounded by the city, surrounded by stress,
right,
and they meet someone like you
Yeah.
that's very calm,
yeah,
and they can see that you have a peace within you, and they want something of that, I think.
maybe.
If you could invite one person, dead or alive, for a forged meal, who would it be and what meal would you prepare?
I will call my dad and say, come down.
Ah,
Let's,
very good.
let's have I used to have a very, very strong connection with my dad.
Yeah.
But in the same time, we didn't see each other for 15 years. Because he was in Belgium and I was here.
Yeah.
And
But you still spoke through that
we
period?
spoke
Yeah.
every week, and I used to put him to work. Like I would go like that. I'm doing a book about beer. Can you do research, on plants that were used in Belgium in the old days? And he will go crazy, go like, "Oh my God, yes!"
He's like,
Yeah.
"Can I taste some beer?" Yeah.
So I would like to have a beer with
Yeah.
him. Yeah,
Very good.
He actually, I went back to Belgium 3 years ago when he passed away, and he called me and he's like, "I am dying. I need to see you."
Yeah.
Type of thing. And he actually died in my arm.
Oh.
I made it on time. So I would not say it was sad. It was actually very close,
Yeah.
very deep. I'm happy I managed to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I wish, I could have the way my dad was and have a mugwort beer with him.
Yeah.
So I could actually drink some of the beer that he was helping me figuring out,
Right.
what it was.
Well, it's good that some of his information has made it into your books.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I
Right.
dedicated that book to him, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that experience must have been very interesting because so many people in Western civilization, they are so scared about death. And I think with your connection to nature,
Yeah.
it's just a part of...
Yeah, it is a part of life. I think a lot of people are scared. I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I've twice in this lifetime, I got really sick and I thought I was dying. So it's not something new to me, like living with the possibility. So I don't know. I don't even know what's happening after. It could be nothing.
Yeah.
It could be something.
Right.
And it kind of doesn't. I think what I'm trying to say is my life is fulfilling enough
Right.
that when it ends, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it is what it is.
Yeah.
And if there's something more, goodies.
Yeah.
I hope
The icing on the cake.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Is there one area in the world where you would love to go to forage?
To forage, I'm always attracted by the North Africa. I don't know why, and I have the feeling it's because part of my DNA come from there too.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some of my family came from Spain and probably Morocco. If you look at my brother, he looks
Totally different than you.
Yeah.
completely different than me, like Moroccan or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think we have a little bit of history there, and I kind of have that longing for it. I don't know
Right.
why. So I probably will decide to go visit like Morocco,
Yeah.
Algeria, all those kind of countries a little bit. I love the music. I always, when I was a kid, most of my friends were from Moroccans and
really?
Algerian. It's interesting.
Right.
Well, like you said, it's in your DNA.
Yeah, I have the feeling there's something there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't run from that stuff.
Maybe you can try. I don't know.
Yeah. What is one utensil that a forager can't live without?
Your knife, the Opinel knife.
Ah.
You need to have that. I think I have it
Yeah.
right
Let's see. What kind of knife is it?
Opinel. This is the French knife.
Oh, yeah,
Classic.
right.
Cannot
Don't
live
leave home without it.
Oh my God.
Opinel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
This is
okay.
good
And why
for-
is this one so good versus others?
It's a classic.
It is.
It's French.
It's very easy to sharpen. There's a lock
Yeah.
right there.
Ah,
It's used for cutting little herbs. It's very sharp.
Good quality metal.
Yeah, you can use it for mammoths. You can use it for dinosaurs. It works with everything. We have different sizes. Yeah.
oh my gosh.
There's some for mushrooms.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's a classic.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know.
It's a beautiful knife too.
They should sponsor me.
They should.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we'll put that hashtag on there. So, how many times have you been stung by a bee or run into a wild animal while you've been foraging?
Many times.
Yes.
I mean, stung by a bee probably twice. No, the bees are
Not
not a
much.
big
Yeah.
deal, but I've had encounters with a lot of rattlesnakes. And
Oh,
I mean, we do have rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
The closest encounter was a mountain lion.
Ooh.
Literally like 6 feet in front of me.
oh my
Oh,
goodness.
I was walking around and there was a duck. I had my camera. There was a duck standing in the water, and I keep moving and he would not move. He like frozen. So I came like literally like
Yeah. Wow,
6
this is going to
feet-
be a great
I
picture.
know.
Yeah.
6 feet in front,
Yeah.
and I'm doing like the photo, and I turn around and I hear this commotion, and this mountain lion is in midair trying to get the duck.
Oh,
Which means that when I was making that picture, that mountain lion was laying right there. and I
Yeah.
didn't
oh
see
my
it.
goodness.
Yeah, he's like thinking to himself, would that photographer get out of the way?
I know. I mean, but you do all kind of fun encounters in nature and bears or whatever. Yeah, it's normal.
It's all part of it.
Yeah, I'm more scared of meeting people in the store.
Yeah,
People are
that's
more
true.
dangerous.
Yeah.
What is the most beautiful thing in nature from your travels?
I love the desert,
Ah.
but yet there is nothing to really forage there.
Yeah.
Kind of. I mean, there is always
Joshua
something.
trees? Can you eat anything from Joshua trees?
No, Joshua tree. I never go there, but I mean, I've been there, but it's interesting. I mean, this would be more like toward native food actually,
Mm.
and what I do is kind of the reverse.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm dealing with all the plant that nobody wants type of
Right.
thing.
Right.
So I'm actually foraging European and Middle Eastern plants.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
really what I'm doing. And there is a little bit of native plant,
Mm-hmm.
but the native plant, and I plant them too. I have my own garden on the private property. But
Yeah.
I mean, if I was really going for like studying native plant, there was so much I would have to learn.
Yeah.
Mm. So you say you have a garden?
Yeah, actually, when I teach, so I basically tell people I go for the invasive and the non-native, and then plant the native if you use them a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Why not? I mean, I'm really looking at how to make it beneficial. So what is more beneficial than even like planting? And it came out naturally. It was not something that I said, well, I should plant native. No,
Yeah.
it actually came from the relationship with nature of, if I pick up walnuts, why
Mhm.
not planting the trees?
Yeah.
Right.
So I have sometime I create my own little nursery. I planted like 4 or 5 walnut trees. I have white sage, black sage, California sagebrush, California bay, mugwort. I mean, all those plants that I tend to use,
Right.
then I plant them.
Okay.
So it's really looking at, again, how to be beneficial. But it was not really this question I had in my head, like I have to be beneficial. It's just normal.
It's just sort of an extension of your give and take
yeah,
attitude.
totally.
Yeah.
It's, like try to give more than you take.
Right. Right. And it all works out in the wash.
And it's supposed
Yeah.
to work out.
Yeah.
And you do make mistake and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but at least you're trying your best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest thing that's happened to you while foraging?
Aside from maybe getting Lyme disease,
Oh, you got Lyme disease?
I think so. I got really sick like 5
Little-
years ago after I had 3 ticks,
Oh.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
and I got really really sick for because I didn't do anything, and then I started to get chronic fatigue and all this
Yeah.
stuff, and then I changed my diet. My diet used to be like really Belgian, like meat and
Yeah.
potatoes.
Wow.
So
Old
now-
school.
So now I'm like 95% plant-based. I don't eat meat.
Oh, you don't eat meat
I
now?
don't eat meat anymore. I eat insect and I eat fish. I'm not an extremist. If I love going to like restaurant, like high-end restaurant,
Yeah.
like once a
Mhm.
month.
Mm.
So I'll do the tasting menu, whatever that is.
So what are some of the restaurants you love in Los Angeles?
My favorite one is definitely Naka.
And Naka.
I've worked with Nikki for 3 years as
Right.
as a forager. Somni is interesting.
Which one? I'm sorry.
Somni.
Omni. Oh, I have heard of that. Yes.
What's a handrest?
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I love the small restaurant that not a lot of people hear
Yeah.
about.
Right.
One of my favorites is a local one, little Thai place.
Mm-hmm.
I love their food.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um,
I just want to point out, guys, that Pascal has written 3 books. The one that we have is the new Wildcrafted Cuisine, which once again is amazing. The photos are beautiful. There's so much knowledge that he drops in there. He also has the Wildcrafting Brewer and a new book that he has coming out called Wildcrafted Fermentation. Can you speak a little bit about that new book?
So the new book is actually, this is the way it happened. So I wrote that first book, and the first book was really a summary of what I've learned for like 7 years.
Yeah.
And there is definitely some new concept for people in that one, like doing the wild beers,
Yeah.
you know, and how to make your vinegar from fruit flies, you know.
That's kind of a turn of the tables.
What?
You're making a vinegar from the fruit flies?
That's correct. That's
Yeah.
why people with
Because-
wine or make beer are scared shitless of fruit flies is because they have the acidic bacteria in their body. So your wine sometimes turns into vinegar because a fruit fly got into it.
And
But you can reverse that and do it on purpose. And I actually found its old recipe in a French book on how to make vinegar from the 1400
Oh my gosh.
using the fruit flies after you make mead.
nice.
And then you get the madder vinegar.
Yeah.
Once you get the madder vinegar, you don't need the vinegar with the fruit fly because it's kind of gross anyway.
Yeah.
But then you use the madder and then you start infecting your wine with the madder.
Oh, interesting.
So the fruit fly is just the bacteria, really, kind of thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I know. I decided to do a lot of lacto fermentation with wild plant, which was kind of new. So
What is lacto fermentation? Can you
sauerkraut,
explain
kimchi?
that? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, in Europe you will use you will make like sauerkraut. So you take cabbage and you add salt, and the bacteria that are present on the cabbage will take over and create lactic acid.
Okay.
That's what sauerkraut is. And then if you are from Korea, you will make kimchi, which is exactly the same principle. And then from all over the world, Russia and all that, there is all kind of different, you know, projects that people can do using lactobacteria. But not a lot of people were doing lacto fermentation with wild plant. So plants from the Brassica family are perfect, which is why Korean use Napa cabbage and all, you know, all kind of different. So that's why, you know, in Korea they use Napa cabbage, for example, and in Europe they will use like the green cabbage. But they're all from the Brassica family. You know, think with it. All the mustard that are invasive locally, they're all from the Brassica family. So you can totally take those and ferment them.
Right.
But from that book, immediately people became interested by 2 things. So they became interested by the boozy concoction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, they're like,
That's-
come on, beer.
Yeah.
Come on, beer
I
and
like
wine.
that more and more now that you talk about that. Yeah.
That's right. So, you know, people were asking me so many questions. So I actually wrote a book on it. And then people also became interested, like you, by the lacto fermentation.
Right.
So then I wrote a book about lacto fermentation. The reason I write book, you don't make money from book, by the way. I don't know if you write a book, you should know that. I think I get like $1 per book.
Whoa.
If that
Yeah.
type of thing.
So that's why you guys should go out right now and help him out. Get your book on Amazon. All of his books are available on Amazon.
Or from the publisher directly, because they do help me. It's publisher is chelseagreen.com.
And then also too, I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but Pascal his Instagram account is at Pascal Baudar. It's at PASCALBAUDAR. And once again, his website is www.urbanoutdoorskills.com.
Earlier, before we started recording, you were talking about a bus.
Yes.
What's the bus?
So I have a project. I'm actually working right now on book number 4.
Okay.
And book number 4 will really take a look at those invasive and non-native plants that everybody look at them going like, it's a weed, it's evil, it's noxious, bad. You know, from my experience, it's pretty much like, I mean, a lot of them are food, like a lot, you know. And I'm really looking at this. I'm going to be working on a book that's going to look at the issue of the pesticides and herbicides sprayed on those plants that are really food in different countries. I'm going to take a look at the issue of food waste. I mean, as I said, the biggest food waste in Los Angeles is probably wild food, non-native and invasive wild food.
Wow.
So I want to I would like to have a project and create a school on a bus and spend 2 years traveling here and there, connect with foragers or like-minded people, chefs too, and look at those plants that we really don't want in the environment and turn them into food and try to look at a positive solution like food, because as I explained, there are no positive solution right now. It's always chemicals or throwing away the resource. if 1% was used for food, I would be so happy, even if it was 1%, because that would be positive. And I think it's important right now, again, within the context of climate change and all this stuff happening.
And people just having a greater awareness of this.
Exactly. And encouraging people to actually use those plants, so instead of spraying them, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Right. I know that the schools that my children went to always had gardening programs.
Right.
So would that be something that you would be interested in working with children to really from a young age help them to understand that you can live off food that is grown wild?
It's interesting. My public has never been really kids,
right?
But there are people who teach kids.
Oh, there are.
Yeah, mine is really kind of culinary. Maybe it's a little bit more advanced for kids,
right?
And
right.
I've done a couple of classes for kids, but it's not really what I do. Yeah.
Unless it has burgers and fries in it, they're like, yeah. Let me get back to my video game.
I mean, you give sauerkraut to a kid, it's gonna go like,
True.
Where's my
mugwort beer here, kid?
Yeah, exactly. So more of that wine. Yeah.
So I have one last question.
Yeah, go for it.
So you've worked with a lot of chefs.
Yeah.
What do they ask from you? What do they want? And how do you help them?
So I used to work with chefs. I stopped doing it probably 4 years ago. I decided to contact a few chefs that I wanted to work with. I told them who I was. Immediately I had a job, type of thing. And I took 3 restaurants and I was working with them. But it was interesting because I realized I was dealing with restaurants were very specific. I was dealing with a French restaurant, an Italian restaurant, and a Japanese restaurant. Not Nikki. Nikki was a bit different. Nikki was much more exploring. So those people were not asking me for any interesting plant. They wanted, on the good side, is they really wanted all the invasive plants. If you're French, you want the dandelion, you want the black mustard to make Dijon mustard, But there was no restaurant like Noma, there was not a restaurant in LA that went, I want to study the flavor of the land, the modern land.
Right.
Without going, so this is 2020. We have so many plants in nature that are edible, native and non-native. There's nobody going let's do something with all this. So it was a bit boring for me. In the end, I actually stopped because I was losing the passion. Because it felt like I was a bit like just somebody collecting stuff.
Right.
They were not really asking me the question where does it come from? And Nikki is the only chef who will come with me in nature.
Yeah.
She would actually come with me several times in the forest and look at plant, and she look at environment and the soil and the condition,
Right.
But the rest, at the time, most of them wanted to use wild food because it was trendy.
Right. Brings them in the door.
I mean, the farmers market suddenly decided to sell all the weeds that they had, they started selling chickweeds and minus lettuce and dandelion, there was a farmer who said, I made more money selling my weeds than selling my real product. And that was in 2014. It's funny.
Okay, well, I think that brings us to the end. We are so grateful, and it was wonderful to meet you.
Good.
We're just really appreciative of your time. So thanks very much for listening, guys. And watch for Pascal. He's got a lot of great things coming up in this upcoming year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
much. Really appreciate it. It's been very inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Woo! All right.
That's okay?
That was awesome.
Hey, Carol, I think it's time that we find all about The Color Purple. What do you got for us?
Well, The Color Purple was a movie back in 1985 with Oprah Winfrey that was really amazing. But in this case, we're not doing a movie review. We are doing a color review. So as you may know from the website, from the podcast, from the Instagram, my favorite color is purple.
It is? Oh, that's right. Purple, right.
Right. You can even see in my hair, in my glasses, my favorite jacket, everything. So, purple is really rich. It's complex. I love it because it's a really eclectic color. It comes in a lot of diverse shades like lilac, mauve, violet, lavender, and there are a ton of meanings that are tied to the color, and a lot of those meanings are very contradictory. For example, the ceremony robes of Roman emperors were associated with royalty. Henry VIII, he banned everyone from wearing it except himself. Purple has also always been associated with penitence and with piety in religion. So you'll see the Pope will have a giant, beautiful purple robe. Another use of purple is that it's a symbol of the LGBTQX movement. I did not know that, but the reason is when you look at typical gender identified colors, pink represents
Girls.
and blue represents
The boys.
lavender blends together the traditionally gender identified colors of pink and blue. It blurs the lines, it subverts and challenges gender norms. Another way that purple is used, I love this one, is there is a purple heart emoji.
What?
Yep. Have you seen it before?
I have actually.
Yeah. Well, a heart is used to, of course, symbolize love, the emotion of love.
Aw.
Aw. And a purple violet heart can symbolize a sensitive, understanding, and compassionate love, just like ours.
Oh, that's so not true.
Hey.
I mean, it's true.
Purple also represents duty, honor, royalty, and good judgment, a symbol of honor for sacrifice. A Purple Heart is awarded to U.S. military veterans when they're injured when they're serving their country. So this is something else I just found out. In 1950, there was a triangular blue drug invented as an obesity medication and an antidepressant. It had a street name called Purple Heart. It became abused, and then in 1982, it was discontinued.
Aw.
It was interesting because a lot of housewives, they fed it to housewives to help them with their anxiety and their weight. And eventually people got too addicted to it. And then when they found another antidepressant, they then discontinued Purple Heart. Another thing that's interesting is purple is so expensive and difficult to replicate. It was often associated with power and wealth and snobbery and extravagance because it was difficult to put purple into dyes for clothing, for products that you would use at home, for car paint, etc. I guess there aren't that many cars that are in purple, but it is associated with power and wealth and snobbery and extravagance. Just think of Purple Rain and Prince.
Purple rain.
Okay, Prince, you're my prince. The most interesting thing that I found in doing my research about the color purple is that purple is the least common color in nature. So Scott, what are some purple vegetables and fruits that you can think of?
I'm going to take eggplant for 2000, Alex.
How about purple peppers, purple carrots,
Grapes,
figs,
figs. Did someone say figs yet?
elderberry,
Purple cabbage.
blackberries,
Purple rain.
okay, dried plums. I guess that's about it. Anyway.
Yeah, let's do that for the next half hour.
Okay. So anyway, the reason that this is very interesting is because a lot of purple food and vegetables contain phytonutrients. So phytonutrients are naturally occurring compounds in plant foods. They've been shown to act as antioxidants, freeing free radicals and removing their power to create damage in the body. If you eat berries like blueberries, elderberries, and purple grapes, they protect your cells from damage, they improve your memory function, and they promote healthy aging and fight against fungi. So from now on, I am going to eat a lot of purple foods to match my purple hair. Hopefully my skin does not turn purple. Purple people eater.
Weren't the Oompa Loompas purple?
Yeah, they were. That's one of my favorite movies.
Oompa Loompa Doopity-doo. Something like that. You can get our CD out later. All right, here's my favorite new segment. It's called a Sip of Coffee. Today we are going to talk about roasting of the coffee bean. Have you guys ever wondered about the different colors of beans? Yeah, me too, right?
Yep.
Like you're driving along and you think, What's with all the colors of coffee beans? Well, you are in the perfect spot, my friends, because I am here to answer those questions that keep rolling around in your head. There is drum roasting and hot air roasting. A chemical reaction inside the bean occurs, causing it to become puffy, oily, and tasty. Sort of sounds like my face as a teenager, minus the tasty part.
Ew.
Starches become sugars, acidity weakens, and aromatic oils develop. Okay, let's get into the colors here.
Okay.
The green bean, which is unroasted at room temperature, will last up to 2 years. Next is the drying phase. 328 degrees Fahrenheit, it starts to yellow and enlarge. At 380... What? Are you saying about the enlarge? She said... He said enlarge. At 380 degrees Fahrenheit, we get cinnamon roast. This bean is yellow and the lightest drinkable bean. American roast at 410 degrees Fahrenheit happens right after the first crack.
What does that mean, crack?
It's actually when the bean cracks. At 410 degrees Fahrenheit, a crack happens, the first crack, and that is American roast. Moving right into the most popular U.S. roast, city roast at 428 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a light brown bean. 440 degrees Fahrenheit brings us to full city roast with its rich, even color. Often it's bittersweet. Next is Mozart's favorite at 450 degrees Fahrenheit, Vienna roast with a light oil and a second crack. So the bean cracks again at 450 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a dark bean.
That's really interesting because do beans from all over the world react exactly the same?
I'm going to say yes because I didn't research it beyond that. But excellent question to make me look like I don't really know what I'm talking about. Well, I mean, how much do I know about coffee other than what I just researched for this?
I don't know.
Well, you do know because you live with me.
Okay.
Okay. Next is French roast at 468 degrees Fahrenheit. Is starting to sweat a little oil and has a slightly burnt flavor. And then finally for you espresso lovers is the Italian roast. Is it the Italian roast at the 475 degrees of Fahrenheit? It is a very dark bean, a shiny with a oil. And there you have it, Carol. Today's sip of coffee.
Sounds delicious. Today's Worth the Spend, we are tying it in with foraging because foraging is on your feet.
Definitely, you got to be on your feet out there in the wilderness. And I just recently bought a pair of Ultra Men's Lone Peak 4.5 shoes in the color gray orange, and they were $125. And the reason I like these shoes, and I've started to explore this, is as we grow, as we come into this world as babies, we've never worn shoes. We've just been wrapped up in our mummy's little tummy, and our feet come out and they're actually spread out. It's only as you grow and your feet get put into shoes that they start squeezing together. Now, I'm noticing some problems with my own feet. I'm getting a little bit of toe overlap on a couple of my toes, and I started to look into that, and I'm thinking that's not a good thing. So, and I don't really wear tight shoes, and I don't want it to be a problem later down. This company that I'm speaking of, Ultra, ALTRA, and they're at www.ultrarunning.com. They have a unique take on the shoe. What they do is make a larger toe box so your feet are open. Your toes can actually spread out every time you take a step. It allows your toes to relax and spread out naturally, and the big toe to remain in a straight position for maximum stability and power. Now, the other great thing with these shoes is what they have is balanced cushioning. They call them zero drop. Every Ultra shoe is built on a balanced cushioning platform that positions the heel and the forefoot at an equal distance from the ground. This natural foundation aids in optimal alignment, cultivates better form, and encourages a low impact landing. When I first put the shoes on, it was kind of weird because it almost makes you feel like you're falling backwards because there's no heel on them. I mean, there is a heel, but it's the same height all the way along the shoe. And I actually have worn them for a while now, and I'm really loving them. I use them for hiking, and I thought that they make an excellent shoe for foraging. You can also get a hiking boot for really getting down and dirty in the foraging world. But these shoes are awesome. They're super lightweight. They're 10 and a half ounces. And like I was saying, I use them for hiking. And on the bottom, they have a lot of grip on them. And I've noticed it in my hiking. Every time you hit the ground, you really are able to push off better than just like a regular tennis shoe.
Plus they look really great. They're very fashionable. They're well designed. You have 2 pairs, and the second pair is very cool. It looks like a bowling shoe, but yet kind of a modern take on that. They're very interesting looking.
Anyways, for this whole package on my foot to make me happy romping around in the forest while I'm foraging things, I'm giving it a total worth the spend. Well, that's the show for today, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you guys. And don't forget, we'd love to have you call with any of your questions that are burning a hole in your soul. Our This Is You question hotline is 562-291-6037. Just leave a message with any and all of your questions.
Our home base is www.thisisyou.com, spelled THISISYU.
If you're feeling like you need a new neighbor on Instagram, we'd love to have you come over and visit with us so we can come and visit with you. On Instagram, we're at This Is You Official.
And our Facebook VIP group. Go on Facebook and search This Is You VIP Community, where we join together and celebrate life. Celebrate food.
Celebrate life sounds a little bit like, yes, he passed away on Thursday, but he celebrated life like no other man I know. Carol, how did we get to the end so fast? It just is a blur.
It's fun. I guess we're getting the hang of this. We still need a slogan, though.
Yeah, if you guys think of a slogan, please leave it on the hotline, 562-291-6037. Thanks for listening, guys. I'm Scott Stewart.
I'm Carol Yu. See you later.